There we go. Give me an audio check here. Let me know where you guys are watching from. We're going to do a briefing for the snow event coming in for tomorrow, continuing into the early part of Sunday. Somebody give me an audio check, please. How do I sound? I was muted to start there, but I believe I got it figured out. What's up, Julie? You got Tiffany, Brown Eyes, Kelly. Martinsville says Kelly. Sounds good, Julie. Thank you. Current time is 8 p.m. Sarah says audio is good. Perfect. Katie in chat says Nineveh. Gail says Winfield. All right. Perfect. We're going to wait a few seconds here. We're going to kind of chill, wait for some people to file on in. And then we're going to break into the upcoming system, timing, snow amounts, impacts, areas, travel forecasts, stuff like that. Audio is great. All right, perfect. You guys are filing in here. We got Cody now. We got Blake. What's up? All right. Let's go ahead and start diving into this. We're not going to be live for too long tonight, but we are going to stay live to cover everything and kind of answer some questions. And we're going to hop out in like 10, 15 minutes or so. Let's dive. First and foremost, we're tracking the system off to our west. That is moving in our direction here. By the time tomorrow morning we wake up tomorrow morning, should I say, system is moving off into our direction. And by 7 or so a.m., Illinois begins to get snow. Iowa is in the heavier part of the snow. 10 a.m. into 1 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time, that snow begins to creep into our state here in Indiana. Now, as we move this into the afternoon hours, it turns into a heavier type of snow. And then by the evening hours, the really heavy stuff arrives, and that'll continue for several hours across the northern half of the state before the system exits off Sunday morning and into Canada, leaving us with perhaps lake effect snow showers off of Lake Michigan up by the South Bend Gary area. But generally speaking, snow should wrap up around the late morning hours of Sunday. Now, taking a dive into the local look here based on the high resolution model data. This is the HRRR model we use a lot for severe weather. It's good for also timing out snow systems. So this model here says 7 a.m., 8 a.m. here. We're seeing snow across the west part of the state, but pump the brakes just a bit. We have some dry air to saturate and overcome first. So just because it may be snowing on your radar, it may not be hitting the ground just yet. So take that into consideration. Sometimes the air has to become saturated and moist for the snow to reach all the way to the ground. Otherwise it evaporates and dries up. That'll be the case here tomorrow morning. Right around the noon time frame or so, 11 o'clock and onward, that is when we start seeing the moisture profile start to saturate. That is when snow begins to ramp up there anywhere north of I-70. Afternoon hours, the snow begins to really start ramping up here. And toward dinner time, the darker blue colors move in. That signifies those heavier snowfall rates across the north half of the state. Also take note, across the central and southern part of the state, we have an area of both rain, snow, and sleet around the I-70 corridor. That is going to be important to figure out where that sets up because it could be a little bit further south, could be a bit further north. I-70 is a cutoff point there. It could deviate slightly either direction. So this is 9 p.m. tomorrow. Here is 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight. Here's 1 a.m., 2 a.m. By about 2 or 3 a.m., we're left with just some lingering snow showers. And then by Sunday morning, we wake up and we are left with perhaps some lake effect snow up in northern Indiana. So timing of this, late morning tomorrow, we wake up right around noon or so. And that continues all afternoon and evening long into the very early portion of Sunday before clearing out into the 3 a.m. time frame. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the wind as well as snowfall accumulations here. First off, the model snowfall. This is through the afternoon hours into Saturday. Here we go. Snow begins to move in there across the early afternoon hours. We're starting to see a 1 to 3 there across the northwest part of the state. By the time dinner time comes around, though, the heavy snow comes in. And by the time we get to late Saturday evening, we are seeing right around 5 to as much as 10 inches of snow here across the northern half of the state. Really along a line from Fort Wayne down to, Peru down to Lafayette line, US 24. points northward of that will be getting in on the heavier snowfall amounts, but do take note, we zoom in here, it is a very, very sharp cutoff where some people, one county down gets 1.3 inches and the next county up gets 3.5. The county above that gets like 4 to 8 inches. It's a very sharp cutoff here. So if that deviates slightly, that could shift people from lower amounts to higher amounts or vice versa. So right now it's going to come down to figuring out where that dividing line is going to be. Right now, US 24 is roughly the heavier dividing line from Fort Wayne to Peru to Lafayette. Points southward of that, we'll see snow, just not as heavy. The wind with this event as well is going to kick up. And by the time we get to late Saturday evening, we could see gusts that coincide with some of the snow, 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts across much of the state here. But we're going to focus in on the northern half of the state because that's where the heaviest of snow is falling at this time. So again, if you're traveling tomorrow evening, especially, low visibility, blowing snow, and also drifting snow is a possibility here with the winds. That wind will continue to crank overnight. The snow stops around the 3 a.m. time frame, but winds pick up and continue overnight into early Sunday before they push off into Ohio and eventually into Canada here, leaving us with gusty conditions, but definitely not as windy as tomorrow evening will be. All right. Putting it all together here, we have a forecast out. We have a lot of stuff to go over here. Forecast right here on your screen is our internal forecast from this morning. Not much has changed with the thinking. We might pull the 5 to 10 zone further south there toward Lafayette, Peru, and Fort Wayne more based on current trends. But right now it's still aligning quite well with our thinking. 5 to 10 plus could see an isolated foot of snow in some spots across the very far northern half of the state. A very sharp cutoff there goes from 5 to 10 down to 3 to 7. And then a very sharp cutoff goes 2 to 5. And then Indianapolis, Richmond areas and point southward in the 1 to 3 zone. Bloomington, we have 1 to 3. That will likely get adjusted up. And by up, I mean down with snow totals. The light blue color get adjusted up toward Indianapolis. Bloomington gets shifted down into the trace to an inch zone. Anywhere further south than that stays in a trace to inch in terms of accumulation. But final adjustment, final call coming tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. That is your snowfall forecast. In terms of travel impacts, we made these arrows here, and they're hard to read for some people. I understand that. The top arrow is your traffic forecast, low, medium, high impacts, and then purple is not advised. This is for northern Indiana. So right at top there, it says northern Indiana, Fort Wayne, South Bend, Gary, Wabash areas. We start low impact. We get to the noon time frame, becomes medium impact for travel. By 6 p.m. and onward, though, high impact travel into Sunday mornings expected. And then the bottom arrow is your precip rate. So that's how hard it's snowing right now, or at that point in time. So we're going to start off no snow at 6 a.m. By 9 a.m., could have some first snowflakes across the western half of this zone. By noon or so, it really picks up. And by the early to late evening hour, 6 p.m., that precip really gets cranking up there. That's how you read these arrows here. We have one for northern Indiana, central Indiana, much of the same, just a bit delayed. We have the heaviest of travel conditions and precip around the 9 p.m. and after time frames. And then south Indiana, not expecting too much there. Could see some rain, snow, sleet mix that could make travel a little slick in spots, but not on a widespread basis to impact travel significantly. We also have a couple other graphics here. Winter storm warnings in effect for north of I-70. So high places include Gary, Elkhart, Angola, Fort Wayne, Peru, Lafayette, Indianapolis, as well as the Muncie areas. Further south in the purple is a winter weather advisory, a step below a warning. We could still see some light accumulations there lead to travel impacts across the Bloomington to Richmond areas. So take that in consideration as well. Further south there toward Evansville and Corydon, it is no alerts there. That is just our Google Earth base map you were looking at there. Travel impacts, once again, high across the northern half of the state from Gary, South Bend, Angola, Fort Wayne, Peru, Lafayette, Rensselaer, US 24 points northward, high impact travel. If you can avoid being on the roads tomorrow night into Sunday morning, good idea across that red area. Further south, Muncie, Indianapolis, Lafayette, Terre Haute, travel delays are possible. Slick conditions are expected, but not going to be as heavy as snow as further north. So impacts will be likely a little bit less, but still give yourself extra time getting to point A to point B. And then further south there in the low impact zone from Terre Haute, Bloomington, Vincennes over toward Richmond area. Low impacts there. Some snow accumulation, perhaps some sleet and rain mixing in as well. Could be slick in spots. And And then further south than that, limited impacts, no major stuff expected down there. But again, could see an isolated burst of snow, perhaps some sleet. That could make travel slick on bridges or elevated surfaces, so keep that in mind. Not a huge deal, but it could be an isolated slick spot out there across that southern blue zone. That is all the graphics I have to share with you guys here. Questions, feel free to pop them in chat. Let's go ahead and talk about those. Yeah, the cutoff is wild. It's a very sharp gradient. We see it all the time in winter. A difference of 1 or 2 counties could mean as much as 6 to 10 inches. And it's crazy how sharp those cutoffs can be. It's also why forecasting snow in winter can be very, very stressful, but also confusing for you guys as the public who don't understand how tight those lines can be. So yes, the forecast is a very sharp cutoff here. And if that deviates ever so slightly, that could change totals for a county or two a tier. So we'll see. But right now, based on data, our forecast that we have, we're pretty confident in. We're going to adjust it just ever so slightly tomorrow morning based on data we have right now. That could change by tomorrow morning, but for right now, we're kind of sitting confident with our call. When will snow start in Indy tomorrow? Right around the afternoon time frame. We're talking just after 12. We're talking like 2-ish p.m. Can you show simulated radar again? I can do that. I'll pull it back up here for you guys. Here is simulated radar based on the high-res data. I'll go ahead and pause it once again here and say 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. It does show snow here ongoing, but likely will not be snowing at the ground. The air has to become saturated first, so likely snowing in the upper levels of the atmosphere, not reaching the ground at this point. By the time we get toward the late morning into the afternoon hours, there's your 2 p.m. time frame there. That's when the heaviest of snow starts to start kicking up there across north central Indiana here. By the time we get to late evening, the heaviest moves in. There's dinner time. And then by the time we get to the midnight time frame and shortly thereafter, we get the snow out of here with lake effect snow possible across the Lake Michigan, Gary, South Bend areas. Power outages are a risk, Tricia. Not a high risk, but with the wind starting to crank up there on latest models, would not be shocked to see isolated outages with this system. And that goes for the entire state because the wind is widespread. Even for the areas further south, it is still windy, regardless if it's snowing or raining. The snowfall rates during the peak of the system late tomorrow afternoon and evening could reach as high as 1 inch per hour, maybe a tad bit over that. We also see signs that we could see some thunder snow tomorrow as well. And I say and kind of emphasize the could because overall the lightning flash density here on the model is present, but it is not a significant signal for it. So this is lightning flash density where we could have lightning, aka thunder snow, in certain areas. So it's possible, but we're going to say not likely at this time. We have Martinsville currently in our 1 to 3 zone. We're likely going to adjust that 1 to 3 zone northward. So if you are in Bloomington and close to Martinsville, you're going to likely fall right on the cutoff line of the trace to an inch to 1 to 3 zone. We're going to shift this around just a bit based on data. Not a lot, but just a hair to account and kind of refine our current confidence with latest data. Any idea if wintry mix is going to limit the snow accumulation in Logansport? So again, that is a very sharp cutoff here with that rain snow line. However, Logansport, I would say you are going to get mostly all snow. Would not be shocked if you get a brief change over to a mixed precip or rain, but should be leaning more so toward a snowier solution for you guys in Logansport. Any questions, feel free to chime in here. We'll be live for a few more minutes. Otherwise, we're going to hop out and enjoy our evening. We'll do another forecast update tomorrow morning on Facebook. Like I said, 8 a.m. or so. Expect that forecast to roll out, as well as radar updates all day so you guys can stay ahead of the snow and make sure you are aware of what's incoming throughout the day. Was supposed to travel to Toledo from Fort Wayne and back tomorrow. Not sure if it's safe to make this trip now with the pending weather. What time are you going, Michelle? If you're going early in the day, you are just fine. If you wait till the evening hours, I'd be a little bit more concerned. Kim asked a good question. How long will snow stay on the ground in Kokomo? I actually had this pulled up ready to share with you guys. So temperatures next 15 days out of Indianapolis, we're on the colder side of things. We have 2 days we're seeing above freezing that could melt some snow with it. Otherwise, we're going to hover right around that freezing mark all of the next 7 to 10 days. We're also tracking another system set to move in later into the week. Stay tuned for that. More snow could be coming with that system for Indiana. Not sure how much just yet, but we're watching another system for later in next week. But yeah, we're not going to warm up very much at all across much of Indiana here. Out of Indianapolis, 2 days are significantly above freezing, and that is Sunday as well as next Friday. So the answer to your question is likely going to be on the ground for a little bit of time. If you have an inch, it'll melt pretty quickly, but if you have 4+, you're going to probably hold on to that for several days. Supposed to leave at 10 a.m., returning home around 10 p.m. So the first part of that trip, you're fine. Second part of the trip around 10 p.m., I would say be off the roads no later than 4 p.m. Over in the Fort Wayne area, you could probably sneak an extra hour or two over there. But 10 p.m. is definitely going to put you in the heart of the system in the snowfall. So take it easy. If you're going to be out there, take it easy. Terre Haute currently looking around a trace to an inch or two at most. Not seeing too much in the way of accumulation further south. And this snowfall we made this morning, the map here on your screen, we're going to adjust it slightly. Probably put Terre Haute in a trace to an inch zone. Based on data we have now, that could change. So wait till tomorrow morning. We'll put an update on the page for that forecast. But in the meantime, current thinking for you guys is about an inch or so at most. Tricia, we're looking at early to mid-afternoon for you guys over there, probably closer to dinner time on the east side of the state. No problem, Michelle. That's what we're here for. Do you think the higher amount will shift south? We are around Fort Wayne area, just checking. On our map, I think we're going to justify the 10 down for Fort Wayne, yes, based on data right now. We did see a bit of a wobble to the south here. Not a big one, but enough to put Fort Wayne and probably Peru North and Lafayette North into that 5 to 10 zone. And then we're going to kind of shift things a little bit further south there. But we're going to refine that 1 to 3 zone, bring that further north. So we're going to leave Bloomington likely, as well as Terre Haute, in a trace to an inch in the white zone. No problem, Felicia. Tricia, if you're heading out in the morning hours, you're going to be fine. I would say be off the roads in West Indiana, Northwest Indiana, right around 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Be off the roads. If you're in Central Indiana, 2, 3, 4 o'clock or so. On the east side of Indiana, be off the roads at 4 o'clock or no later. And that's based on data we have now. That could change an hour or two, but that's what we're kind of seeing with the timing of the snow. It may take a bit to accumulate on the roadways, but after we get the sun to go down and we start getting into the nocturnal hours, that's when snow starts to really stick on the roads and make things slick. So right around that sunset time frame, which is 4 or 5 o'clock or so, be off the roads for sure. Angola to Chesterton between 8 and 10. You are fine, Bobby. You are fine. Martinsville, we're going to put you on a line between trace to an inch and 1 to 3 for you. Probably going to err on the side of the trace to an inch. We're going to refine our forecast tomorrow morning, so stay tuned for that. But based on data, less snow south of I-70 for now. Any last questions, guys? We're going to wrap this up here. Dive into evening model data, as we do have new forecast sets coming out as we speak. Yes, we do. So I'll take a peek at this, dive into the nitty-gritty details. We call them soundings and atmospheric profiles to figure out if anything's changed. And we'll form a forecast here for you guys for the morning. Yeah, Goshen, we are going to be looking at snowfall late morning, early afternoon. Starts to ramp up around that 2-3 p.m. time frame for you there in Goshen. And yes, Goshen, right now, you are on the high end of our snow totals. We have you in a 5 to 10 plus zone. You're kind of up in the heart of the heaviest snowfall. Would not be shocked to see a few areas get close to a foot, perhaps maybe a 13 or 14 inch report up there. But 5 to 10 should be the general range for 90-95% of you guys up in that pink zone. All right, I don't see more questions here. I've asked for questions for final before we hop off. I don't see anything else coming in. So we're going to hop out of here. I'm going to dive into forecast model data and form an opinion for tonight's forecast or tomorrow morning's forecast. And then we're going to go from there. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll catch you tomorrow. We'll do another live briefing update sometime in the morning hours to catch you guys up to speed with the latest information. Stay safe, guys. Appreciate it.